How's it going, guys? Cameron here with Canadian Gamer coming at you with another video. Hope you're all doing well.
And it's Joe from Seattle coming at you with another video as well.
Been pretty busy today. I did spend a couple of hours fine-tuning, playing around with the settings on both my recently acquired Sony camcorder, which I have here. I wanted to talk about it for a few minutes.
For the next 2.5 minutes, he legit just talks about his camcorder, so I'm going to skip ahead to the interesting stuff.
But I did want to talk about emulation. Now, we've talked about it before on the channel, and I know this video is probably going to ruffle quite a few feathers.
Yeah, that tends to happen when you say really dumb things, and you can't really be surprised when people get a little heated when you say something along the lines of, I don't know, emulation does an excellent job of catering to the filthy casual parentheses rant. I can't imagine why that would ruffle some feathers.
But hear me out on this. So if you play your games on an emulator, you know, whether it be on your smartphone or a modern TV or maybe on your desktop or your laptop.
And before we go any further, I want to point something out that he just glosses right over here. When you think of emulators, you probably think of people playing ROMs of retro games on their PC or phone, but emulation is a major part of the industry all around. Like, how do you think backwards compatibility works? And what about re-releases of classic retro games? Or what about 80% of Nintendo's entire business model? So before you start generalizing all gamers who play on emulators as one certain thing, I want everyone watching this video to be aware of the fact that that's not even remotely accurate.
Or even maybe your Nintendo Switch or whatever platform you're using. You know, that's fine. If that's how you want to play your games, if you enjoy it that way, that's fine.
I love when people start their 10+ minute long rant by saying they're totally fine with people who don't agree with them. Like, you're allegedly fine with people who don't agree with you, but also here's a 10+ minute video of why they're wrong.
Nothing makes fucking sense.
But for me personally, I feel like, you know, most, maybe not all, but most that are playing on an emulator, they're just filthy casuals that want a piece of the action.
Yeah, because the people who like playing older games are all filthy casuals. Like, how do you even come to this conclusion? Yeah, guys, this gigantic group of gamers who like playing old games but don't want to constantly change the cables and switch between actual literal release versions of those games. Like, okay.
So, you know, I understand not everyone can afford real hardware. Not everyone has the room for it, but
just get more money, lol. Just get more space, lol. Imagine not hoarding decades of hardware when there's an infinitely easier and smaller version available, lol. Like, I'm not denying the satisfaction of having a physical collection. I'll never bash people who like physical media. I like physical media when I can get it. But to immediately insult people who emulate games and then immediately present two completely legitimate reasons to emulate, like money and space, like, you just look like an ass face.
You know, there are some out there that are greedy. You know, they have to fucking download every emulator under the sun.
That's right, guys. Greed is the only reason to download multiple emulators.
And download the thousands and thousands and thousands upon thousands of ROMs and put them on an SD card.
Well, if the publishers decide they don't want to profit off them anymore, I don't see who's hurt by this. Also, have you considered the fact that emulation keeps franchises alive by giving people easier access to the older games? Like, genuinely, who is hurt by me emulating the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man game? Which, side note, I forgot how fucking janky this game's controls are. At some point, I'm gonna force myself through it, but oh my god, controlling this game is the hardest part of the game. I fucking loved that game as a kid, and without emulation, I probably never would have been able to play it again. Wow, look at that, how handy. Also, if it weren't for emulators, I never would have been able to revisit the super, super underrated 2003 Ninja Turtles game. Like, I'm not even being sarcastic. This is a top-tier Ninja Turtles game, and no one fucking remembers it for some reason.
And load them up onto their emulator and play it that way. You people should be fucking ashamed of yourselves, seriously. And I don't have to go in any further on why that is.
Well, no, you actually do have to go into why that is. Like, you can't just declare yourself correct and then leave the viewer to justify it for you. Like, yeah, guys, anyone who likes Pixar movies is secretly a fed, and I shouldn't have to explain why that is.
So, recently, I've been playing a little bit of emulation. A little bit. We're talking a select number of games, and I've been playing them on my desktop.
Yeah, guys, I'm doing the exact same thing as you, but when you do it, you're greedy. When I'm doing it, it's okay, because it's just a little bit. But when you do it, you're greedy. Good lord, kid.
Using a controller that's not an original Sega Genesis controller or a Super Nintendo controller. And most recently, I was playing Outrunners on the Sega Genesis.
No, you were playing on your emulator. You just said that.
And man, does it ever suck sitting like this in front of a computer playing these old games on a 1080p modern HP display is what I have.
I mean, that doesn't sound sucky to me at all, but to each their own. Although if you're uncomfortable on your chair looking at your monitor, you could always just sit on your couch in front of your TV, because it's 2023 and people still don't seem to understand you can do that with a PC.
It's just, man, it robs the game of its experience as opposed to playing these older titles on a CRT.
So turn off widescreen or turn the resolution down if it really bothers you that much. Like as a Smash Melee player, I absolutely hear you when you say a CRT is really different from a monitor. Because at face value, that's true. But that's what all the settings are for. If you want the game to look and feel more like a CRT, you can do that in an emulator. And if you don't want to play games on anything but a CRT, I mean, you're a little weird, but I guess that's valid. It doesn't explain why you're now going over to a gaming monitor and complaining about it being a gaming monitor when you could just not have done that and not had any problems.
So those of you who have been watching the channel, you know I have a CRT, as you can see a little bit of footage here. And
bro, we would have believed you if you just said you had a CRT. Like, that's not a weird thing. You didn't have to prove you have a CRT.
Man, I've been playing on the CRT quite a bit the last couple of days. I was playing Pitfall, the Mayan Adventure, as well as a little bit more of Outrun.
You realize that all the things you say about people using emulation, just being greedy and filthy casuals, I could completely flip that back at you right here. Like, you have all of those retro games still because you're greedy and a filthy casual and a puss.
And a few other games yesterday, having some fun with the CRT. And I have to tell you guys, and if you don't own a CRT, again, you may not fully understand, especially for the younger audience. Once you experience these games on a CRT with original hardware, it is next to impossible. It is next to impossible to go back to emulation on a modern display. Oh my fucking god.
I mean, call me a greedy little filthy casual, but I completely disagree. Playing those games on emulators allows you so much more, and in many cases you can unlock the game's true potential. Smoother performance, higher frame rates, full screen support for games that previously were stuck in 4.3. Tons of retro games have passionate modding communities too. Like, I mean, I could keep going with the reasons why emulation has so much to offer these older games. Like, I totally get wanting to be a purist. I do understand that. But to insult something that is so, like, exclusively good, once again, it just makes you sound like an ass face.
It's bad enough I have this older flat screen next to me, which you guys can't see here, a JVC, a real nice flat screen.
Well, since you felt the need to prove that you had a CRT, I'm just going to go ahead and assume you're lying about the flat screen. Because, I mean, you're not proving that one, so obviously you're a liar. And this has critical importance to the overall argument in some way that I haven't figured out yet.
But even still, I have my OG Xbox and my PS2 hooked up to it, and then I got my Wii U over there hooked up to a modern. The Wii U, I guess, is fine because that's HDMI, but sometimes I play the Wii games on it.
Oh, you play Wii games on the Wii U. But tell me more about how emulation is stupid and dumb and called you a bad name and licked all your doorknobs.
But like, even to play the original Xbox and the PS2 on a TV that is not a CRT, it robs it of the experience 100%.
Yeah, man, I sure wish I could never play Halo 1 at a better resolution or frame rate or with a better input device than the original Xbox controller. Like, I don't even know what I'd do if I could play Halo 1 on better hardware. I'd probably just shit in my own hands if I could do that.
So I have been slowly sort of looking for a second CRT to probably replace this JVC because it's really, like I said, it's affecting my ability to enjoy these older titles, you know?
Holy shit, that might actually be the most hipster boomer sentence I've ever heard.
How awesome would it be, I was just talking about this with someone today, to be able to play a game like, you know, the original Resident Evil 4 like this, with proper 4:3 aspect ratio on a CRT in a dimly lit room with a nice set of earphones.
I mean, most people would probably argue that the best way to experience a game like Resident Evil 4 is with a solid display so you can get a good feel of the atmosphere and the environment so, you know, you can properly get immersed because, you know, it's a horror game. It's like, yeah, you could watch Die Hard in the original 1988 vision, or you could watch the Blu-ray. for an objectively better experience.
You know, that would be the ideal way to play this, would it not?
No, it wouldn't be.
Not on a fucking 16:9 flat screen, that's for damn sure.
I just realized that, once again, you haven't actually given any reasons for any of this. You're just declaring them to be bad and expecting everyone to agree with you. Which is a tall order when you're saying something that I would argue most PC gamers, at the very least, would disagree with you on.
The whole fucking emulation, a lot of the gamers out there, it's like they've showed up at a Chinese buffet, you know, and they want to have a little taste of everything, but they don't want to sit down and enjoy one thing.
What the fuck kind of analogy is that? If I wanted to sit down and enjoy one thing, I wouldn't have gone to a fucking buffet, you dolt.
You know, they download an emulator, and then they download a rash of games, and they dip their toe in the water. Oh, this game's okay. Oh, let me move on to the next game, the next game, the next game, the next game. And they never really commit to any of the games they're playing for the most part. Not everybody.
I don't get you. You just make a giant generalization, and then you're like, it's not everybody. Okay, so why'd you bring it up? Why'd you make a giant generalization if you're going to immediately say that it's not accurate?
But that's the whole idea with these mini consoles. It's a buffet, you know? It's for the filthy casual. That's exactly what it is. And that's why I don't touch these mini consoles. I have them, but I don't really touch them.
Emulation is bad, but the mini consoles are good. Even though they're literally emulators in a plastic box. Also, did you seriously just say our buffet is bad, but your smaller buffet is good? Because I'm pretty sure you just said our buffet is bad, but your smaller buffet is good.
You know, again, I can't stand the way these old games look.
If this isn't a troll video, I'm going to be really concerned. But I really don't think it's a troll. Like, this is a lot of commitment to the bit if you're actually just trolling.
On modern displays, I can't fucking stand it. You know, it's kind of like the FPGA consoles. They're okay, you know, fine, whatever. You know, this is obviously really good.
Okay, this has to be a troll. I'm not allowing this to not be a troll.
Really good, right?
Nah, bro, that's pronounced Game Boy.
You know, same with the analog Mega SG or the Super NT. You know, that's great. But I find a hard time wrapping my head around why you would want to play these games on these super sharp displays when you could play them on original hardware.
Because it's more convenient, and they run just as well, if not better, and there's mods. Like, bro, this is so low effort. Like, why'd you bring this topic up at all if you have nothing interesting to say about it?
So, yeah, like, you know, this is awesome. Don't get me wrong. It is really awesome. It is. But part of me thinks it would be more awesome to have a Game Boy Advance, you know, the original model, the bigger model, and just getting a screen replacement that gives you a better backlight and playing it that way.
So emulation on a PC or mobile device is bad, but playing on the original console with hardware improvements, that's okay. Yeah. Okay, sure. Like, you've been running this whole video off the basis of the Purist argument, but you just destroyed your own Purist argument. So, good job, I guess.
I don't know. Once you experience, like, the scan lines and the taste of the original hardware and the original controller in your hand, and the CRT plays a huge part of it.
And the frame rate is like a PowerPoint, and the ambient ringing is giving you a headache. Ah, dude, it's just the best. Anyone who disagrees should be shot.
And, you know, there's a lot of gamers out there, and they use the whole excuse, well, I don't have room for a CRT.
Which is an entirely legitimate point.
Well, that's bullshit, because my CRT is like 12 inches.
You don't want a CRT? Pfft, bullshit, kill yourself.
Like, it's not a big CRT. It's really not.
Okay, what if someone doesn't want a 12-inch CRT? Then what? Like, is their point still bullshit then? Will you consider listening to their measly opinion, oh holy dictator of opinions?
But once you're sitting right in front of it, your eyes adjust to the display, and it's just as good as if you had a big TV. Okay, you don't need to have a honking 300-pound CRT. Get yourself a nice small one, and it will do you a world of good.
Literally none of that was objective. Like, not a single part of it. Congratulations.
But yeah, I just wanted to sort of get this off my chest because, you know, the more and more I sit in front of my computer with this cheesy-ass fake Super Nintendo USB controller that I have.
So don't use it.
And I play these old games through emulation on my LCD flat screen monitor. it just robs these games of the experience, and I just feel absolutely filthy, like I want to take a bath
So don't do that.
after playing these games this way. It's just, ugh, it's nasty. It's absolutely disgusting.
Hey Siri, show me a first world problem.
So, you know, if you got yourself one of those misters, and then you played emulation, but you somehow, because people are telling me you can hook up a mister to a CRT,
What the fuck is a mister?
I guess that would be your workaround for that, right? But even still, it's not as good as having original hardware and having that original cart in your hand.
For reasons that are totally universal and that I have completely explained to the best of my ability.
Now, I can warm up to the idea of having an EverDrive, okay, and loading the ROM files onto the EverDrive and playing that on my Genesis. I can warm up to that idea.
ROMs on PC are bad, but ROMs not on PC are good. Got it.
But as far as emulation is concerned, with the exception of a few titles that I'll continue to play on my PC because I don't yet have a physical copy on my Genesis, that's about as far as I go with that. I'm not going to start downloading ISO files for the PS1 and the Dreamcast.
Okay, you don't want to do it. Fine. Genuinely, what is the point of this video? Other than to throw vague, half-ass insults at people who like things that you don't like, and who are also way better at insults than you. In the words of William Shakespeare, I'll beat thee, but I would infect my hands.
You know, N64, Saturn, you know, PlayStation 2. No.
Hot take, literally every N64 game plays better when you're not using the N64 controller.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not that hard up. If I really want to play most of these games, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry if you take offense to this, but no, I'll just go out and buy it.
Nobody's going to take offense to this. We're just going to be confused as to why you're being such a douche about something so trivial.
Like a real man. I'm not going to sit there and emulate these games.
Bro, I'm sorry, but when you keep saying stuff like how you don't want to offend anyone and you're sorry if people take offense, but then you edit in your own applause, it really makes you look fragile. Like, born with glass bones and paper skin level fragile.
On my fucking computer. No way, I'm not that hard up. It's like, it reminds me of like, and again, if you're from the younger generation, you wouldn't really recall this, but like in the late 80s, Pontiac, which was a division of General Motors, they released a mid-engine sports car called the Fiero. A really cheap-ass sports car.
Yeah, bro, I love it when my gaming video turns into a fucking car flashback.
It was a two-seater, 2+2? Two-seater, sorry. And what happened was, you know, towards the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of car enthusiasts, you could buy kit conversions that would convert your Fiero into a Lamborghini Countach.
Okay, genuinely, what the fuck is the point of this? Like, am I high? What the fuck is going on?
Now, I saw one. I took a picture of it a number of years ago. It was a white one in Ottawa. And at first glance, it looked like a legitimate Countach.
Yeah, someone wanted a cool-looking car without spending cool-looking car-level money. Welcome to reality. This happens a lot.
It looked real. It was amazing. Until I got up close and I started to pick out the differences, like the wheels weren't obviously the original Lamborghini Countach wheels, and then you looked into the car and you saw the interior and you're like, oh my god.
So basically, fuck you for being poor. Got it.
And that's saying a lot, because the interior of those Countaches weren't exactly, you know, interior of a Rolls Royce. But yeah, so what you had there was you had a filthy casual or a poser that couldn't afford a real Countach.
Because being a poser is the only reason you could ever have for deciding to buy a cheaper version of something. It has nothing to do with budget or availability or just personal preference. Maybe some people legitimately like the other car better. Did you ever think of that? Also, you're pointing out all the superficial differences between two cars while ignoring the fact that they're fucking cars.
Cars?
And the point is to drive them. Like, how do you not see this? You're bitching about how two cars look while ignoring the actual purpose and performance of the car itself. Kind of like how you were previously bitching about how emulation looks without ignoring the actual purpose and performance of emulation.
So they would take a Fiero and convert it into a Lamborghini Countach. So it looked the part, until you got behind the wheel and started driving it, and you're like, oh my fucking
Oh, look, you remember what you're supposed to do with a fucking car.
God. Well, same goes for emulation. You can't convince me otherwise, and if you're going to argue with me in the comments below, go ahead, but like, no. There's no substitute for the real thing. So that goes for Lamborghini Countach, and that goes for OG hardware as well, okay?
You're comparing a fancy car to a less fancy car of the same time period, and then you're comparing 20-plus-year-old gaming hardware to modern hardware, and you're acting like that's an even remotely fair comparison.
So if you guys out there are emulating and you don't have the original games and or hardware, you do yourself a favor and go buy the real thing, okay? Because you're robbing yourself of the experience. So that's all I wanted to sort of get off my chest. I know a lot of you man babies will probably get triggered over this, but hey, I'd rather be true to myself and be honest with my opinions than gloss over and sugarcoat things.
Yeah, guys, if you get upset about me calling you a greedy poser or a filthy casual, you're a man baby, not me. I'm an adult with adult communication and adult sex having.
Then I get it. The big factor for a lot of people is affordability, and a lot of these games are super, super, super expensive.
Just stop not having money, lol, idiot.
But at the very least, you don't have to go out and buy all the OG carts. Just get the original hardware. Get yourself a CRT and get yourself an EverDrive and call it a day, okay?
Yeah, guys, buy a CRT and an old console, but not the games. Fucking what?
Stop it with the emulation. Stop, okay? Just stop. So that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I'll be back with something a little bit later. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.
You're welcome for making your channel more entertaining. Toodles.